So, quite a comeback from former DA leader Helen Zille. She won the closely contested Federal Council Chair race, beating Athol Trollip, Mike Waters and Thomas Walters. Zille succeeds James Self. In studio this morning, we sit down with the DA's new Federal Chair. Very good morning, Helen Zille. Are you well?
Good morning, Tony. I'm very well, thank you.
Good. First of all, congratulations. Being on your new position, Federal Council Chairperson. Let's talk about what we've been headlining first. I want to get to the crux of the issues first. We're expecting a press conference from the Johannesburg Mayor, Herman Mashaba. He says he's going to resign. We're expecting him to resign. That's what our sources are telling us because of your election as Federal Council Chairperson. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's very interesting. He hasn't spoken to me yet, but what I do know from reading social media, which isn't always reliable, and certainly not Twitter, which is a gutter, I have learned that he thinks that I have the power to terminate his mayoralty in Johannesburg. Now, I don't have any such power at all. The power of the chairperson of the Federal Council of the Democratic Alliance is not to walk into governments all over the country and to say what may or may not happen. Now, I think he may be worried that the plan is to terminate his mayoralty in Johannesburg by breaking off the working relationship with the EFF, and so perhaps he would like to go before that happens. But he's had no discussion with me at all. The last discussion I remember having with Herman Mashaba was a long time ago. I was one of the people recruiting him into the Democratic Alliance, so life is full of irony.
It is, isn't it? Aren't you worried, though, that you could lose Johannesburg if Herman Mashaba decides, listen, I'm packing my bags and I'm leaving the DA, because he's kind of holding that together with the EFF. They've kissed and made up.
Well, the bottom line is that the leader, Mmusi Maimane, and the Federal Executive and the Federal Council have to give leadership on this issue. My job as chair of the Federal Council is to implement and give effect to those decisions. I don't decide which coalitions we will enter or which agreements, governing agreements, we will break. That's got nothing to do with me. Now,
you were not really happy with that coalition when it comes to the EFF because you were feeling that then you don't share the same values as the DA. Am I correct?
It's common knowledge that at the time that we were entering that working arrangement, which isn't a coalition, with the EFF, I was opposed to it, and the reason that I was opposed to it was that I thought the tail would wag the dog. So I've been in coalitions and heading coalitions where we haven't in any way agreed with many of our coalition partners on core values and principles. But I was always very careful to ensure that the tail didn't wag the dog and that our coalition partners didn't set policy that contradicted our core policies. Now, I was very worried about the EFF at that stage because they have diametrically opposed policies to the Democratic Alliance. For example, we stand for non-racialism. We stand for an inclusive, growing, market-based economy. They stand for racial nationalism and populism and all those things. So if we can stay in government without sacrificing our principles, that's okay.
Let's talk about some of those policies, because you're heading into your policy conference this coming December, of course. When we look at your position now that you hold, you'll be very influential when it comes to what policies the DA adopts going on into the future. And it is well known that you are not, when it comes to the black economic empowerment policy, that your leader, Mmusi Maimane, has been pushing out there. And also when it comes to affirmative actions, you guys see it completely differently. Is that going to change? Are you going to influence the policy conference to change a lot of that?
The whole of the DA supports redress for the injustices of the past. There's no difference.
But how do you plan to do it if you don't see race as an issue?
Tony, let me answer the question. I'll get right there. The whole of the DA supports redress for the injustices of the past.
Yes.
Some people say race must be a proxy for disadvantage. Other of us say, no, disadvantage doesn't need a proxy. You can measure disadvantage. So disadvantage can be measured in and of itself using race as a proxy for disadvantage has always led to the empowerment of a few politically connected people, leaving the vast majority of disadvantaged people behind. That is the debate.
What colour a vast majority of the disadvantaged people in South Africa?
They are mostly black people, that's absolutely true. But to say that black is a proxy for disadvantage is wrong. The black middle class is bigger than the white middle class. And indeed, the entire bureaucratic elite and political ultra-rich elite, many of whom have got rich on corruption, still claim the advantages of BEE by virtue of the colour of their skin. And that is what we're opposed to.
Helen, what is your relationship at the present moment with the DA leader, Mmusi Maimane, who right at the beginning you pushed for him to come to take over from you? You were his mentor. It doesn't seem to be a good relationship at the present moment.
Well, from my side, it is good, it is cordial. He is the leader, and as we have often joked about the role of chair of Federal Council, that is the role of toilet cleaner in the party. So Mmusi is the leader and I'm the toilet cleaner.
Not really, though. It's a very powerful position, Helen.
It is a powerful position. It is the interface between the administration and the politics of the party. So it is that administrative and politics interface. It is also critical that in that position you are coordinating the systems, the processes, the structures of the party and making sure they work transparently, freely and fairly for everybody.
What was your take on the Patricia de Lille issue, the handling of that? Because some might say that's where you lost a lot of votes as well when it came to the May general elections. And is Mmusi Maimane, as the leader, should he be held accountable for the losses that you took during the May elections?
Well, there's never one person that is accountable for things that go wrong. But unfortunately, in democratic politics, the leader has to be accountable for things that go wrong. The nice part about that is that you can take credit for things that go right. It's bittersweet in politics. You take responsibility whether things go right or whether things go wrong. And that is the tough part about it. But there are other people that are clearly responsible, and I don't like scapegoating. And in many instances in our party, when things have gone wrong, some people have been scapegoated, and that is something that I would like to see ended.
Are you coming back to restore the old order per se? And when you look at the Western Cape, where you also lost in terms of numbers, is there worry that you might lose your stronghold? Is that you coming back and saying, listen, we need to sort this out as quickly as possible? This is a knee-jerk reaction?
This is certainly not a knee-jerk reaction. It's a very thought-through reaction. You won't find another party in South Africa, when they lose 1.7% at the polls, that does the kind of introspection that we have done in the DA. You won't find another leader but Mmusi Maimane who is brave enough to go out there and say, I'm going to get 3 totally independent people to analyse exactly what may have gone wrong and make whatever recommendations they see fit, and then put those recommendations to the Federal Council and have an open debate on them. The ANC has lost far, far more votes. I mean, they were up at 70% at one stage. They're now at 58 or something. They've never once done serious introspection or analysis. They're an interlocking set of patronage networks. Only the DA, when we hit a problem, and compared to other parties, it's a very minor problem, only the DA does the kind of introspection, self-reflection, and in a completely fair, free and open way. Most other parties can't even hold an elective Congress without a war.
Helen, we have to end the interview here, but let's say your mayor for Johannesburg, Herman Mashaba, is watching this, and you say you have not spoken to him. What would you like to say to him?
I'd say, talk to me, Herman. I've had dinner at your house. I've had long chats to you. You always have been much more conservative than I have. You were the chairman of the Free Market Foundation. You were very strongly against social grants. In one of the conversations that I had, I was worried that you were too conservative for the DA. We very strongly believe in a social safety net for the poor in the DA. So what's changed, Herman? Let's sit around a table and have a chat.
All right, we'll find out what's changed about 10 o'clock this morning. Helen Zille, thank you so much. Federal Council Chairperson of the DA, back in politics.